we got two guests. One on the phone, Milwaukee County Executive David Crowley, who joins us on the phone. Hi, County Executive.
Hey, how you doing, Steve? How are you?
I am good. Also in studio from Waukesha County Executive Josh Schoemann.
Good morning from Washington County.
Did I say Washington?
No, you said Waukesha.
Oh, did I? Washington.
Yeah, I mean, I like Paul Farrell, but
I do too. I like Paul. Washington County. My bad. Thanks for correcting me. All right, gentlemen, were you both at the same meeting that you were attending this week in Washington, D.C.?
We were out at the National Association of Counties Legislative Conference.
All right, so I really want to get to shared revenue, but I want to talk about what the big issues are. So many of the people that listen and email and text and call into the show want to know about taxation and what counties are doing to build up their economic development. I understand this was one of the takeaways from that conference. So we'll start with you from Washington County.
Yeah, so it was a really interesting conference. I think the big takeaway I had was international economic development, really talking about foreign direct investment and how the State Department is trying to work more with localities, counties in particular, since that was the theme of the conference. But I thought it was really interesting and starting some new relationships, which I think is always the good thing about these conferences, is to build partnerships and relationships across different units of government. And this was another example of that.
And County Executive Crowley from Milwaukee, obviously shared revenue is important, but from the perspective of the health of counties, when you're at this meeting, what were you hearing from your peers?
Well, I can definitely tell you that, one thing that is happening, not just within Milwaukee County, but across our state and across this country, is really talking about the opioid epidemic, trying to figure out what we can do as it relates to enhancing both the health and safety of all of our communities, but also just focusing on harm reduction. And I would say, the biggest takeaway for me was I had the opportunity, I was just named to be a part of a national commission on mental health and wellness through the National Association of Counties, which is going to be basically an intergovernment cooperation between communities all across the state, as well as agencies at the federal level, to learn more about best practices at the county level and how we can put our best foot forward.
And Josh, the governor's going to make his biennial budget address tonight at the Capitol building in Madison. What can he say to county executives that would put a smile on your face, or at least cheer you up when it comes to the challenges that you face every day?
Yeah, that's another something that County Executive and Crowley and I will spend more time together at the address tonight. But I think it really comes down to how we can partner with one another. So, County Executive Crowley just mentioned the opioid crisis. I think when you think back to last year, you remember there was all these opioid settlements and dollars getting kind of allocated for all these different companies settling out lawsuits. That was a great example. County Executive Crowley and myself, County Executive Farrell, many others, standing shoulder to shoulder with Governor Evers and actually signing really what I think is the best settlement in the country that put the money right back, boots on the ground at the county level. And I think that's exactly the kind of something that Governor Evers could do again. The more times we're finding ourselves talking ahead of time, working with one another, and trying to find ways to partner state level, across party lines, across county lines, I think the better off we are.
And you guys are a great example of that. County Executive Crowley making that connection between budget dollars and boots on the ground, resources that it can actually be used in counties. It seems like such an easy thing, but finding the right mix, finding the right places to put that money, that's the challenge, right?
I mean, that's always been the challenge. I mean, when you think about the fact that we at counties, we are very unique. We have our local priorities and the things that our local communities absolutely need. But we are an extension of the state of Wisconsin as well. So we also are charged with actually implementing many of the initiatives at the state level. And so if we aren't getting the necessary dollars to implement those state mandated programs, it makes it much harder for us to focus on things like the continuum of public safety, whether we're talking not just law enforcement, but whether we're talking about DAs, if we're talking about correctional officers within our jail or the community reintegration center. And so this is one of the reasons why I would say that, County Executive Schoemann and myself and many others have really been coming together to figure out how do we make sure that local municipalities have the funding needed to invest back into their local communities.
We are joined by Washington County Executive Josh Schoemann and Milwaukee County Executive David Crowley. So this is for both of you. I'll start with you, Josh. Do you get the sense that all of the county leaders in Wisconsin are on the same page when it comes to like the priorities and what needs to be done to address things like mental health, drug problems, crime, public safety, taxation? Are they on the same page?
Yes and no. So I think generally speaking, we all agree on the baseline of some of the struggles and the problems, opioids in particular, heroin. That we all have different ways of addressing it, and something that's unique to Milwaukee might be completely different up in Marathon, Wausau area, might be different than Washington. But I think what we all know is dollars at the local level will allow us to apply the best solution that fits our culture, that fits our community. And that's why it's so easy to be able to stand together with County Executive Crowley or, the County Executive Pavelski up in Portage County, Stevens Point, and say, listen, the state can apply a one-size-fits-all approach, and it is not going to work, and we're all going to be mad, and you're all going to get upset with us. So let's try to apply the dollars at the local level, and not only do you get kind of the federalist type of a system where we're all trying different things, but you also get a very localized approach that people in the community can buy into.
County Executive Crowley, do you agree with that? Let the county executives and the leadership team there, with their residents' input, obviously, make those crucial decisions.
I mean, absolutely. I mean, everyone knows that you can't have a one-size-fits-all solution for anything statewide here in the state of Wisconsin. What happens here in Milwaukee and the people that we represent looks different than what's in Hudson or what's in Washington or what's in Waukesha. But just like Executive Schoemann said, we all agree that if we're able to actually put those dollars to work, we can do great things. And I would say that it's a great example when you think about both CARES and ARPA, one of the very few times where local municipalities were able to get direct dollars from the federal government, and we made them work. I mean, it was tough in the very beginning when you think about the pandemic, but we made them work. And when you think about it, it was a great blueprint to understand that if we are able to just talk about, one, the resources that's needed for all of us across the state, we can focus on what we need to do in our individual communities. But again, we're all on the same page in saying that, if you fund us, if you give us what we need, we can deliver.
We're talking to county executives. We'll call it County Executive Day here on the Steve Scaffidi Show. We'll continue the conversation after the break. I want to talk about shared revenue. We had a great listener question I want to get to as well about how well you both, as county executives, work with other leaders, all the way from the governor all the way down. We'll get to that and more after this on WTMJ. Some important conversation. Somebody said, this is boring. It's not boring for this reason. This matters to all of us. Public safety, mental health, taxation, the things that affect us every day. I always say this about these conversations. Local leaders have way more import on your lives and your bottom line than any other leader, president, senator, I don't care who it is. It happens at the local level. We are joined in person by County Executive Josh Schoemann from Washington County and from the great county of Milwaukee, where I am currently working, County Executive David Crowley. So I want to ask that question. You guys seem to get along. Washington County, Milwaukee County. I asked about the other, and there's disagreements, healthy disagreements, I'm assuming. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. How about other leaders like mayors, governor, state senators, assembly reps? Are you figuring things out? Because we've heard about the Great Thaw. I would argue yesterday. That the Great Thaw might be more fiction than fact. What are you seeing? What are you hearing?
Yeah, so I completely agree that partisanship has proven to have many foils. That partnership, especially at the local level, is really the only path forward. And so we talk, for example, about shared revenue. We talk about opioid settlement money. Every time we find success, it's when we're talking to each other ahead of time, trying to map out, what do you need down here in Milwaukee County? What do I need in Washington? What do they need up in Hudson? What is needed up in Wausau? And how do we formulate a package that can work for everybody? And, none of us are probably going to get everything we want, but what works best to serve the people of the state of Wisconsin. And I think those are the times, whether it's any one of those examples, that we have the most success. And it's a privilege to work with County Executive Crowley on many different things. As you said, we don't agree on everything, but you don't need to.
But you don't have to yell at each other.
I don't know that we've ever yelled at each other, no.
County Executive Crowley, is that true? You haven't yelled at each other?
No, that is absolutely true. We have not. And I would tell you, look, I spent about 7 years, in state government, 4 as a staffer and 3 as an elected. And I would tell you that the partisanship, it can be really heavy. And many times you can't get certain folks to have certain conversations. But when I won this seat, and our administration has made it very clear that we want to change the narrative. We want to restore the relationships that we have, not just within Milwaukee County, but also across the state of Wisconsin. I think everybody understands that, depending where you are in the state, both, Democrats and Republicans can use it as a lightning rod. But we've been working well with the state legislature, figuring for. You have new leadership within the city of Milwaukee, and the relationship between Mayor Johnson and myself is much better than previous county executives and mayors in the past. But we continue to have the governor at the table as well, being a part of these conversations. And so, it is on the onset of being here, it has really been about building relationships, because when you think about local government, it shouldn't be partisan at all. Local governments, no matter where you are on the political spectrum, when you make a call to EMS, you make a call to the police department, you make a call about potholes, you want to get it fixed. And that's what local government's about. And it's been a pleasure to be in this seat to cut out the partisanship and really have these quality of life conversations that really improve the lives of everybody.
Just to counter the boring comments, Diane, not boring at all. This is from the text line, Old National Bank talking text line. Not boring at all. Local is best. Also from another texter, what a refreshing conversation. That's what I think, because it's the bottom line stuff. All right, you heard County Executive Crowley mention shared revenue. We've heard about the thawing, the conversations between the Assembly Leader Robin Voss and Governor Tony Evers. The great thaw, does that mean we'll figure out how to get counties, because you're both leaders of counties, the money they need to operate efficiently? And I remind my listeners, this is where it meets the road, right? Plowing and all the services that counties provide in some cases on some of these roadways. That has to get done, because that's the first call often that leaders, me as mayor, you as county executive, used to get. Me used to, and you get them now. Is that shared revenue conversation, is that happening? Will we get some results from that conversation?
It absolutely is happening. And to David's point, this has been an initiative at the Counties Association through our executive and administrators group that has been ongoing for the better part of the last year and a half. And we've been trying to formulate a package that works for everybody. Now we don't agree on everything. I have some real concerns with the way that the mayor of Milwaukee has treated law enforcement in the budget process. But that doesn't mean that I don't think revenue has got to be part of the solution in the city of Milwaukee and in Milwaukee County. It absolutely does. There is no other path. And a succeeding city of Milwaukee County only means a succeeding Washington County. And a Milwaukee County or a city of Milwaukee that's going bankrupt means Washington County is going to have some major problems. So we have got to formulate a solution that can work for both of us. And quite honestly, this is the engine of the state. If it is not working down here, you're going to have major issues up in Wausau and Hudson and Manitowoc and everywhere else across Wisconsin. So I really feel confident and comfortable that we're going to come to a solution. What isn't helpful is when someone comes in and says, here's what it's going to be, and I take it or leave it. Whether that's coming from a mayor outstate or whether it's coming from the state capitol, it doesn't make any difference. It's got to be a conversation, and that's what I'm so proud of, the work that the county executives are doing together, County Executive Crowley and myself included.
County Executive Crowley, maybe the last word on this. I only got about a minute. Your answer on what would you like to see on shared revenue?
Well, to be quite honest with you, I would like to see a statewide fix. When we talk about the issues that pertain to the city in Milwaukee County, I mean, it is not unique to just us. And Executive Schoemann just talked about it. Everyone has been struggling all across the state, and what works for us may not work for everyone, but we need to make sure that Milwaukee County and the city of Milwaukee is at the table for a statewide solution. Because at the end, we have to cut through this red tape and figuring out how do we make sure that we can adequately fund public safety, how we can adequately fund our roads. This has been a long time coming, and the fact that we're really having this discussion, even though everything isn't soup yet, but the fact that we're still at the table, everyone across the state is still at the table, is a good thing in my mind.
County executives, I'll leave it with this texter comment. Why can't other government officials conduct themselves like these two gentlemen? I agree wholeheartedly. From Washington County,